Okay, in this video and next few videos we will talk about how we can use the Splunk add-on for Amazon Web Services to ingest different kinds of logs. Okay, so mainly in this video we will talk about how to ingest the Cloudtrail log, and maybe in next few videos we will talk about different other kinds of logs over there. Okay, so let's get started over here. Now mainly this particular add-on is helpful for ingesting different kinds of logs like Cloudtrail, CloudWatch, config logs, or S3 logs, or Kinesis logs, or different kinds of logs over there. Okay, now for different kinds of log there are separate source types available for this in this particular add-on, which we will be seeing in future part of this video over here. Okay, now I will be touching base, or I'll be mainly concentrating on how to ingest the logs into Splunk, and then maybe from there, from those logs, what kind of dashboards we want to create. That could be like individual use cases, so I will not be covering that part. Okay, so to ingest the Cloudtrail log, so there are certain steps we need to follow over here. Okay, so mainly we will be following the Splunk documentation, and then we will see how we can implement over here. Now if you see, the documentation is divided on different parts over here, like overview, pre-installation, installation, configuration, then input configuration, troubleshooting, and then reference, right? So from overview, these are the informations like what is this add-on about, which I already spoke about. So different release notes and all. So now today we will be using it, the 5.0 version, 5.0.1 I think, of this particular add-on, which is Splunk 8 supported and Python 3 supported. Okay, now there are certain pre-installation steps which we need to follow, specifically this last two stuff, like configure AWS services for the add-on and the permission level details. Okay, so if we just go over there, if you see on the right hand side, you can able to see, like for different services there are tutorials, or there are steps we need to follow, as we will be concentrating on the Cloudtrail log today. So I'll be clicking on over here, configure Cloudtrail log. Now these are the steps we need to follow for Cloudtrail. Now before that, let us try to understand how this whole flow works, how Splunk basically ingest the data from AWS. Okay, so for that I created a presentation over here, so let me run that. Okay, so over here, if you see, if we just understand this particular flow diagram, right, it will be much easier to configure it. Now if you see, the Cloudtrail is basically like, it records different kinds of management events in your whole AWS setup, right? Like whether you want, if you have created some users, created new policies, so those kinds of management events it will be logging, right? Apart from that, it also logs other type of logs as well, or instances or events as well, which we need to specifically configure. But on very simplistic term, Cloudtrail log is basically like the different kinds of management logs. Now when we set up Cloudtrail, right, so it basically push the logs to S3 storage. Okay, it can also push the log to a SNS as a SNS notification as well. Okay, so that you can configure some kind of queues or message queues basically to listen to those notifications, and then from Splunk we generally listen to this SQS. So we basically read the SQS and ingest the data. Okay, now there are two kinds of flow over here. If you see, like from Splunk we can directly take the S3 logs as well, which are basically pushed by this Cloudtrail services, right? So that also we can do, or we can just go to this path over here from Cloudtrail to the SNS notification. Then from notification we will basically set up a queue, which is nothing but a Amazon SQS service. From there we will be pushing the log. So today we will be seeing this path over here. Okay, so this is the like very Cloudtrail specific way of ingesting the data, and this is very generic way, because in S3 not only the Cloudtrail log, you can push any kind of data over there, right? So this kind of a generic approach over there, so which maybe we will be discussing in future videos. Okay, so this is the overall flow over here. Okay, now let us to achieve this one, what we need to do is basically we need to set up the Cloudtrail logging first. Then from there, inside the log itself, there is a option to basically set up the SNS notification, and then we will be creating a queue which will listen to this SNS notification. Then from Splunk, we will be basically creating an input which will listen to this guy over here and ingest the data into Splunk. Okay, so to do that one, what I have done is I actually created an account in AWS, which is basically you can set up a free account over there. So although there are certain kind of limitations, like how many API calls you can make, how many instances you can provision. So maybe if you are using it for a POC purpose, I would suggest like you just go through the service level agreement and see like what kind of stuff are available for the free tiers. Okay. Now first thing we will do is we will search. So this is my AWS console. This is management console. So I logged in as a root user over here. Okay. Now generally when you ingest logs, so you basically create another user or another account over here, so that and give certain kind of permissions to that account, so that only it can fetch only those kinds of logs over there. Okay, that means it has limited capabilities of doing something over here. So to create a user, first thing is you need to search for the service called, if I just click on over here, so there is a service called IAM. So if I just find it out under security, identity and compliance, so this is called a IAM service. Okay, so this service can be used to create a new user over here. And if you see in the left hand part over here, there is options to create groups, users, roles and policies, right? Now if I just click on users over here, so I already created a user called test_user. Okay, this one today we'll be using it as well, but let me show you like how to create a new user over here. You need to click on add user. You need to give a user name over here. Okay, some names over here. Then you have to tell like what will be the access type. If you want to access it programmatically, which we'll be doing it through Splunk as well, right? So you need to check this box, programmatic access. Otherwise, if you want to set up as a AWS management console access, you need to click on this one. So if you click on this one, you can set up a password over here. Okay, and if you click on this one, so you can basically set up a access key ID and secret key, okay, which are required for any kind of programmatic access of any Amazon resources. Okay, so if I just click on next, so here you can basically set up the permission for that particular user, okay, which will be seeing for the test user over there. So that's why I'm not setting up over here. Then you can tag something like what kind of user it is and what purposes it has been used. So you can tag those users, those details as well over here. Then you can review it and create user over here. That's the very simplistic flow of creating a user. Okay, so as I already created a user, so I will not create it again. I will go back to the test user over here. Okay, so once you create the user, it will be available over here. Okay, the user ID, you can click on over here and then modify according to your need. Now the first tab is the permission. So over here we will be setting up the permission of that particular user, like which AWS resources it can access, those stuff, and what kind of access it will be having. Okay, now as we have created, I have created this user as a programmatic access. So in the security credential tab, you can basically generate that access key using this create access key over here. Okay, so just be aware, like for free account, so there will be a limitations of how many this access key you can create. So just check it out over there. Okay, now other stuff is fine. So we'll just directly go back to the permission tab and we'll click on the add permission over here, which will basically take us to the same screen which we saw while creating that user over here, right? So it is asking for either you can add user to a group, you can copy permission from another user, or you can just directly attach a policy. Now I'll be directly attaching a policy over here. So what is policy? It's just like set of rules which will basically tell on object level access details. Okay, so I created a policy called Splunk AWS Add-on. Okay, so if I just click on over here, it will be basically taking me to the policy details page. You can come over here, you from the left hand side, you clicking on this one over here as well. Okay, so it will basically take you to this policy details page. From there you can create a policy as well. So let me try to show you like how to create a policy. If you just click on that create policy, over here there are two options. One is the visual editor, another is the JSON way. Okay, in visual editor basically you can choose a service and you can choose what kind of actions you can perform and what are the details level. Like if I just show you, so you can, let's say S3, I'll just search for S3 over here. So you can choose the S3 and then basically specify what kind of actions you want to allow. Okay, now to know what kind of actions we need to allow, we will go back to this page over here. Okay, and under this configuration AWS services for the Splunk add-on, there is another option called configure the AWS permissions, right? Now if I just go to that page, it has details for all different kinds of inputs over here, or different kinds of logs over here, right? So it also have another option called configure one policy containing permissions for all the inputs. Okay, so if you see it over here, this is a JSON policy, right? So if I just go back to this policy creation page, so this was the way of applying the policy or creating the policy in visual way. We can also create the policy in a JSON way as well. Okay, so if you see it over here, so Splunk has given a policy version which can be applied to an user or account for, and this policy is basically applied to all different kinds of input or all basically the AWS services Splunk supports. Okay, so we can just directly copy this guy over here, okay, fully, and set it to the policy or create the policy over here. So that is what I have done it over here as well. So if I just show you over here in the policies, so if I just go to IAM policies, so this is the policy I have created over here, Splunk Splunk AWS Add-on. So I just give it a name over there, and if you see the JSON, I just copied it from from this page only, so this guy only. Okay, so that is what I have done it over here. So I just created a policy which has the necessary details for accessing any kind of logs or inputs, or basically type of inputs Splunk AWS Add-on supports. Okay, so this should be enough. Now in actual production scenario, it needs to be happen like you need to basically create a role, okay, and then assign that particular policy to this particular role over here. Okay, but fundamentally it is same, like if whether you are applying the policy directly to the user or you create a role and then apply that role to that user, it's like basically applying the policy through the role. So fundamentally it is same. So I just, as I am doing just a simple demo, so I'm just applying to this particular policy to this user directly. So in the attach existing policy, what I'll do is I'll just select this particular AWS add-on, I'll click on next review, I'll just add permission over here. Okay, so that means we have applied the policy to this particular test user. Okay, and this policy holds all the necessary details for object level access. Okay, so this is the first step we need to do it over here. Now once the access level stuffs are sorted out, then what we have to do is basically, as we are dealing with Cloudtrail today, from the service we will just search for Cloudtrail. Okay, we will search for Cloudtrail over here. So it will basically take you to the Cloudtrail dashboards over here. Now over here, if you see, like, these are the different events. Currently it is recording over here. If you see, like, I just attached a policy to this particular user, then I just previously I have deleted some trails, I stopped logging. So those kind of management level events, it is logging it over here, right? Now from here we will be creating the trail. Okay, we'll give it a name called test underscore trail. So in production scenario, you should be giving a proper name. Now AWS supports a trail for applicable for all regions over here. Okay, now under management events, you can basically specify what kind of events you want to basically record. So I'll be choosing all over here. Whether you want to log AWS KMS events or not, you can choose it from here. Insights events are like events where if there is some kind of unusual activities, specifically of the right management APIs, you can log those stuff as well. So as I'm doing the demo, I'll just choosing it no over here, because for this one it may take some additional resources, and for that maybe additional charges are applied. Okay, now this is important over here. In the under data events, you basically record the S3 object level API activities or Lambda function level API activities as well over there. Okay, so as we are making things very simplistic, we will not do this one, but this one is important over here. It's called the storage location, because the Cloudtrail logs will be stored in a S3 bucket over here. Now over here, if you see, there are two options we have. Either you can create a new bucket, or you can choose an existing bucket as well. Okay, now as I already created a S3 bucket when I was doing this particular POC, so I will be choosing that one. So it is basically the same way I have created first time. Like I just click yes over here, I just given a bucket name over here. Okay, very simplistic configuration. So this time I'll be choosing no, and I'll be choosing the bucket I have created over here, test.bucket.youtube. Okay, now tags, you don't need to give it over here. Here another thing we have to do is called if I just click on advanced over here, you can basically set up the log file prefix. I'll just keep whatever default it is. There is an option to encrypt as well. I will not do it now. Now I'll just enable the log file validation. Now this part is important. Send SNS notification for every log file delivery. Okay, so this is where the SNS setup is coming into picture. Okay, so that means I'll be clicking on yes over here. So that means if I just go to the PowerPoint I have created over here, so from Cloudtrail, this SNS notification, this is the stuff we are doing it over here. We already have set up the S3 storage as well, because Cloudtrail push it to both, right? So that means I'll be just choosing the SNS topic previously I created. So there is a same way as S3, you can create a new SNS topic from here as well. Okay, so I'll be choosing the SNS topic I previously created over here. Okay, so then other stuff is optional over here. Then I'll just click on create over here. So this will be basically creating a Cloudtrail over here. Okay, and if I just go to dashboard, if you see the trail name is coming up over here as a test trail, and if you see this logging part, it is currently on. So for those users who are doing POC, maybe when you are not using it, you may turn off this logging option over here, so that it will save some kind of certain amount of API calls at least. Okay, so we have set up the Cloudtrail. So let us go back. Let us try to follow whatever we have it for in our documentation. Okay, so this is the prerequisite, right? So if I just go to Cloudtrail level, now the first step we have to follow is the enable Cloudtrail, which we did that one. Create an S3 bucket in which to store the Cloudtrail events. We have also did that one while we configured the Cloudtrail logs. Enable SNS notification, that is also we have done, right? Now we have to create the SQS, that the messaging queue, right? So if I just go back over here, so this queue we have to create it now, right? Which will basically listen to this particular SNS notification. That means whenever the Cloudtrail will generate this notification, it will be automatically pushed to this queue over here, right? So to do that, what we have to do, is from the services, you have to search for simple queue services. Okay, as I already searched, so it is coming up in my history over here. So if you do not have it, you just need to write it down, this one. Okay, simple queue services. Now over here, if you see, I already have created a new queue over here, but let me show you. It is a very simplistic configuration. First thing is you need to give a queue name over here. Okay, now the input today will be using it supports the standard queue. Okay, now then if I just give the queue name and choose the standard queue over here, then just click on quick create queue, so it will be basically creating that queue for you. Okay, so if I just go back, so then this queue will be created with all these details over here. Now two things first you need to set is in the permission level, which user can access this particular queue, because we'll be using the test user to access the queue level details. So from the add permission, you basically allow, then you have to give the account number for that user. Okay, this one you will get from the ARN details of that particular user, and then you would basically select like what kind of specific actions you want to allow for this particular user. I just selected all for now. Okay, and another thing you have to do is connect this particular queue with that SNS from the Cloudtrail we created it, right? So to do that, what you have to do is from the queue actions, you basically click on this subscribe queue to SNS topic. Okay, so this will bring up this window. You have to select your region name, you have to select your topic name. Okay, then the topic ARN will be automatically populated, then click on subscribe. So I already did that one, so that's why it is coming up like this one over here. Okay, so this is the SNS queue we have created when we created our Cloudtrail over here. Okay, so these two things are important when we create our queue over here. So we created this particular component as well over here, right? So at least from AWS point of view, hopefully we are good enough. I think we already set up whatever is required. Maybe if we missed something, we will be coming back over here and fix it. Now let us go back over here and then coming up to this installation part over here. Now installation wise, now as of today I'll be using a standalone environment in my local laptop to demo this one, but this particular add-on can be installed in a distributed environment as well. Okay, so the search at level installation indexer also you can do the installation. It also supports the heavy forwarder as well. Mostly like we for input creation purpose, for like getting the indexing the log purpose, we install this particular add-on in the heavy forwarder level. Now this particular add-on also supports lot of data models which are SIM compliant. Okay, so that you can use those particular data models in other applications as well. So those purposes, maybe you need to install this particular add-on the search at level as well. Okay, now in terms of distributed deployment compatibility, everything is compatible except the deployment server. So currently it is, you cannot basically deploy this one using the deployment server. So that thing you have to keep in mind over here. Okay, now installation wise, it is very easy. Whatever we do, like I just downloaded that particular file from the Splunk base. I just install it as install from file over here. That there is nothing to discuss from that point of view. So after you install, if I just go to our Splunk home, basically our main page of the Splunk, so the add-on will be coming up something like this one. So when you click on this one, so it will be giving you this particular screen. So just like if you see my video on Splunk add-on builder, so this particular add-on has been created using the similar add-on builder only. So that's why very familiar UI you will be able to see it over here. Okay, now first thing we'll be doing it, we'll go to configuration tab over here. Okay, now in the configuration tab, there are 4 tabs: account, IAM role, proxy, and the logging level details. In the account, you basically manage the different accounts you have in your AWS. Okay, so if I just click on add, let's say we'll give it a name called AWS User, or let's say user 1. Okay, you need to give the key ID and secret key. If you see, like when we created the new user, this is important, right? Because we set it up like, when we created the new user, we set it up like we'll be using this particular user programmatically, right? So that's why we will be able to generate the key ID and secret key over here, right? So I already have the key ID and secret key with me. I'll just paste it over here. Okay, then I will be just basically selecting the global from here. Okay, now this government cloud and China are separate entities, so mainly we will be selecting the global one, until unless you are in China region, or basically you are handling the US government cloud, AWS clouds basically. Okay, then I'll be clicking on add over here. So we have basically added that test underscore user details in our Splunk AWS add-on over here. Okay, so now when you create roles, you can manage your roles over here, you can add your roles over here as well. But when we'll discuss the inputs, like the inputs very much specific to the Cloudtrail, that particular input configuration do not need any role over there. So that's why I am setting up everything at the account level over here. Even if you remember, like when I did that one for the test user, I directly attached that particular policy, Splunk add-on policy, directly to that particular user over here, not through a role over there, right? Okay, so now at the proxy level, you may need to set up proxy level details if you are using some proxy. As I do not have any, I am not setting it up over here. In the logging level, for different kind of services, what kind of logging level you want to maintain, you can keep it over here as well, mention it over here as well. So I'll be keeping info over here for Cloudtrail as well over here. Okay, so this is our configuration. Now we will go to inputs over here. Okay, we'll be clicking on create new input. Now for each and every type of inputs over here, so there are two stuff, like there are inputs specific to the particular service, or there are generic inputs as well. So if I just click on Cloudtrail over here, if you see this SQS base S3, generic S3, incremental S3, these are generic inputs for Cloudtrail, and this guy Cloudtrail is very much specific to this Cloudtrail input over here. So today we'll be working on this guy. Maybe in future videos we will be talking about this SQS based S3 as well, which is also recommended because of certain advantages it is having. Okay, but let us first try to understand the basic stuff. So we'll be clicking on Cloudtrail over here. So we'll give it a name called test Cloudtrail city input. Okay, now from here you have to basically select the AWS account. Just now we have added it in our configuration tab. Now it will basically list down the regions over here, so you have to select that particular region. So I have basically selected my region in AWS as Asia Pacific Mumbai, so I'll be selecting that one. So based on your region, you have to select the corresponding region over there. Now if you configured your AWS correctly, it will basically list down this SQS queue over here, because this particular user have the access of this test queue which we created over here in our SQS over here. That's why this is important at the permission level. Okay, so let us go back over here. So we selected the SQS queue over here. Now source type, so for different kinds of input, so it will automatically choose the source type over here as well. We'll keep as is this one, AWS Cloudtrail. You can select your own index over here. We'll be selecting main. Okay, now in advanced settings, you can basically blacklist for a particular kind of log. Even you can exclude events index as well. So this type of stuff you can do, but I'll be just keeping it as by default values. Okay, and then we will click on save over here. Now if we did everything correctly, ideally we should be pulling it up the AWS Cloudtrail log in our environment. So if I just go to main index and search, so currently do not have any. If you see it, like already logs are getting pushed from AWS Cloudtrail to my main index over here. Okay, and for troubleshooting purpose, like previously when I was doing this particular POC, I faced certain issues, like it was S3 level access was denied. So that's why, like, those whatever permission level details we have done it, those are very much important over there. And how I know, like, where I need to check when something goes wrong, if you come over here in the troubleshooting page. Okay, if I just click on over here, okay, and if you see, the Cloudtrail logs are basically over here, okay, in the underscore internal index. So you'll be searching something like this one, index equals to underscore internal, okay, then source type is equals to this guy over here. Okay, so this will bring up all the Cloudtrail logs over here. If you see, like, if something is going wrong, it will be basically logging it over here. Okay, and also it logs other stuff as well related to the Cloudtrail. So this particular logs are very much dedicated to Cloudtrail. So if you have any kind of issues while indexing the Cloudtrail data, you can come over here and see if something is going wrong over here or not. Okay, so this is the kind of troubleshooting stuff. And I think in the reference page there are certain kinds of lookups which are basically created for Splunk add-on for AWS. So these lookups files are basically maps the fields from AWS services to SIEM compliant or human readable values in Splunk platform. Okay, so maybe these lookups are worth checking it up. So this is for the Cloudtrail log over here. Okay, so just check it out, what is the content of this one. Okay, maybe when we'll talk about SIEM more, maybe we will talk about this guy as well over here. Okay, so hopefully this video was helpful. In future we'll be basically configuring more types of services from AWS into Splunk. Okay, see you in next video.